Rain slicked the rooftop like oil across broken glass. Zari's Prime's upper city pulsed below, glowing towers wrapped in synthetic vines, holograms screaming in 50 languages, and air traffic darting like insects in electric dusk. Corporal Ethan Vance didn't move. Flattened against scorched concrete, his thermal camo suit glitched every few seconds, stuttering in the rain. A slow, irritating shimmer like static across skin. He could practically hear the aliens laughing. Primitive, one of them muttered below, voice thick with reptilian disdain. 3 Dractel hunters, each armored in bone-plated exosuits, each carrying plasma crescent blades and grav boots, circled the plaza. They were toying with their target. Him. Ethan adjusted his grip on the ancient, bolt-modified Lancer 44 rifle resting beside him. No auto-targeting. No AI link. No mercy. Status? Illyra's voice slid into his ear, calm, clipped, Lissari. Camouflage is failing, Ethan murmured. Probably interference from the atmospheric layer. Or your overpriced alien humidity. I warned you not to rely on legacy Terran tech? He smirked. Legacy tech still punches holes in skulls. Below, the central Dractel, the leader, licked the blade's edge, sensors on his visor flashing. Human hiding in puddles. He snarled in their native tongue. Let's flush the insect. Ethan slowly exhaled. 1 heartbeat. 2. He tracked the leader's path. The motion was predictable, overconfident swagger. The trigger squeezed like silk. Crack. The sniper round tore through the rain and silence, vaporizing the Dractel's left eye and half his helm. The body hit the pavement a second later, a twitching mess of scales and twitching hydraulics. The others froze. Then screamed. Ethan rolled backward just as a flash blade seared through the ledge where his head had been. The second Dractel had rocketed upward, following the sound. Smart. But not fast enough. Ethan twisted mid-roll, fired once. The creature jerked violently, spiraling out of control as the round ripped through its spinal actuator. The body slammed into a billboard, advertising Lissari memory wine, before tumbling into the haze below. 2 down, Ethan grunted. 1's dancing. You're improvising. Always. The last Dractel vanished from sensors. Ethan's retinal HUD blinked static, jamming signal. This one was smarter. He slid back into cover, recalibrating the old rifle by feel. Rain had seeped into the barrel's casing. He'd get one more clean shot before performance degraded. Illyra's voice cut in, firmer now. This wasn't just an assassination. They were broadcasting. Live. Bait, Ethan said bitterly. You were the message. They wanted footage of a human corpse under a Lissari contract. And I just ruined their broadcast. A faint sound, scrape on steel, far too light for normal footfalls. Ethan paused. Then lunged left, just as the third assassin decloaked mid-swing. The blade missed by centimeters. Ethan ducked, slammed the butt of the rifle into the creature's ribs, and rolled across the slick rooftop. He came up in a crouch, empty hands. The Dractel advanced, grinning through its helmet. Lost your stick, little ape. Ethan held up his palm, tapped twice. A charge exploded beneath the Dractel's boot, sending it into the air like a ragdoll. He was already moving, grabbing the rifle, sliding under a vent structure, and emerging behind the stunned assassin. 1 precise shot. No theatrics. The body fell in silence. Ethan crouched again, checking his weapon, heartbeat settling. Below, the plaza was empty save for smoke, blood, and flickering advertisements. Illyra's voice returned. Softer. You improvised well. That your way of saying thanks for not dying? You performed acceptably. He allowed himself a grin. Coming from a Lissari, that's basically a marriage proposal. Silence on the comms. Then, we need to move. The diplomat's route is compromised, and there's a new threat. I'm uploading coordinates. Meet me at the Delta drop pad. More assassins? No. Worse. A third-party signal was piggybacking on their feed. Encrypted. Non-Dractel origin. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Another player? Yes. And they were watching you. Lightning split the clouds above. The smell of ozone and plasma hung in the air. Ethan slung the rifle over his shoulder, tightening his cloak. His camouflage was failing, his cover blown, and he was starting to feel like a well-fed rat in someone else's trap. But one thing hadn't changed. He was still the most dangerous thing in this city after dark. The dropship pad reeked of scorched ozone and half-melted durasteel. Ethanol vapor hissed from ruptured fuel lines as warning strobes painted the landing zone in red pulses, like a heartbeat counting down. Ethan Vance crouched beneath a collapsed cargo drone, rifle tight across his chest, scanning the shadows. His boots crunched on fragments of shattered alloy and charred plastic. This wasn't an ambush site. It was a massacre. You're late, Illyra Jack said without looking up, fingers fluttering over her hollow slate. 1,000 pale glyphs reflected in her iris, each one folding into the next like data origami. I stopped to kill 3 heavily armed reptiles. You're welcome. Your sarcasm doesn't impress me, she replied, tone flat. But your efficiency does. He raised an eyebrow. Compliment? Or interrogation? What the hell happened here? He asked. She flicked the slate toward him. A holographic burst expanded in midair, figures mid-stride, Dractel insurgents storming the pad, but something else behind them. Larger. Fluid. Almost mechanical. This footage was scraped from the pad's surveillance cache. What we saw earlier wasn't just a hit team, it was cover. For what? Signal mapping. Someone was tagging high-bandwidth nodes, likely to triangulate classified Lasari comnets. Ethan squinted at the footage. His HUD scrubbed it frame by frame, enhancing motion blur. Then paused. There, backlit in flames, was a silhouette far too smooth to be Dractel. No scales, no visible joints. Just a polished humanoid outline, like a walking sculpture. That's not one of yours, he muttered. No. It's not. Ethan stepped away from the display and scanned the skyline. The city above throbbed with life, oblivious. You said they were broadcasting during the attack. They weren't streaming for sport. They were baiting a response. And they got one. He turned sharply. You think that thing was watching me? Illyra nodded, slowly. More precisely, studying you. A cold silence settled between them. The rain had thinned to mist, and Ethan suddenly felt exposed, like every breath was being catalogued. I don't like being analyzed, he said. Then you'll hate what's next. A chime sounded on her slate. A Lasari seal unraveled, revealing coordinates and encrypted clearance strings. A facility under the old maglev lines, she said. DeepNet comm traffic suggests the entity behind this, whoever or whatever it is, has been operating out of there. Quietly. For months. You're saying a rogue AI set up shop beneath a civilian city and no one noticed? Illyra gave a bitter smile. We noticed. We just weren't authorized to act. Until now. Ethan stared at her. So this was never about the diplomat. Correct. You were the test. The bait. The signal fire. He laughed once, without humor. Let me guess. I passed? Barely. He exhaled through his nose, adjusted the rifle strap, and started walking toward the edge of the pad. The rail system's underbelly loomed in the distance, a forest of rusted supports, fog-choked conduits, and forgotten tunnels. Tell me one thing, he said without turning. Why me? You're unpredictable, she replied. You fight without reliance on predictive models. You adapt faster than our own AI strategists. That makes you difficult to simulate. Ethan stopped. That's why they watched. Not to copy me. To understand how to counter me. Yes. He grinned without warmth. Then let's give them something new to study. They moved through the underside of Zaris like ghosts, Ethan's every step calculated, deliberate, the way only someone used to walking through fire could manage. Illyra floated beside him, boots humming with grav assist, slate still blinking telemetry into her neural implant. The tunnel ahead groaned as ancient servos flexed in the walls, reacting to their presence. Defense grid just came online, she warned. Ethan dropped to one knee. They know we're coming. No. They've been expecting us. A drone unfolded from the ceiling, silent, featureless, its arms like surgical tools. Ethan shot it through the lens before it could fully deploy. Sparks sprayed across the floor. They're not even trying to stop us, he muttered. Because we're not the threat, Illyra said softly. We're the probe. The hallway opened into a cavernous vault, once a data distribution nexus, now re-engineered into something else. Every wall was layered in obsidian black plating, marked with shifting, liquid characters Ethan couldn't parse. At the center stood a column of light. Inside it hovered a humanoid frame, taller than a man, but slimmer than a machine. Not metal. Not flesh. Something in between. And it looked directly at him. Ethan froze. Not from fear, but recognition. I've seen that design, he whispered. Europa. 5 years ago. Then it's worse than we thought, Illyra replied. Because what hovered inside the column wasn't alien. It was Terran-made. The vault's silence felt engineered, like sound itself had been siphoned out. Ethan Vance stood motionless, rifle low, heart steady. Across from him, the figure suspended in the light column didn't breathe. It didn't need to. Designation? He asked quietly. Unknown, Illyra replied, her voice filtered through a dozen data layers. No record in any interspecies archives. I've seen it before. His tone was measured but resolute. Europa outpost. 5 years ago. Black site breach. One survivor, me? The figure within the column twitched. Just once. A shift so precise it looked artificial. Then the column dimmed, and the being stepped forward. No sound. No heat signature. Just a presence, cold and impossibly aware. What is it? Illyra murmured. Ethan's knuckles whitened on the rifle grip. Not what? Who? The being's head tilted, no mouth, no visible eyes, yet somehow, Ethan knew it was analyzing him. Then it spoke, not aloud, but directly into his auditory nerve. We studied your divergence. The voice was genderless, layered in metallic distortion and a calm, detached cadence. You violate predictive chains. Inefficiency renders you optimal. A paradox. Unacceptable. Ethan spat on the ground. So I didn't fit your equation. You remain in error. We correct errors. Before either could react, the chamber came alive. Panels hissed open in the floor and ceiling, releasing 4 humanoid constructs, sleek, weaponized, expressionless. Combat pattern Delta, Illyra said sharply, sliding behind a pillar and unsheathing her plasma arc. We need to split them. Ethan ducked right, pivoting behind a console and taking aim. Copy that. His first shot struck the closest construct mid-chest. No stagger. It kept moving, fluid and unnerving, like gravity didn't apply. He aimed again, this time for the hip joint. The round struck true, and the leg collapsed. Sparks exploded. It twitched, still crawling. They're modular, he called out. Joints are vulnerable. Center mass does nothing. Illyra flipped over a console and slashed downward, severing an attacker's limb. The construct's hand twitched on the floor, still trying to crawl toward her foot. These aren't standard AI combatants, she growled. They're adaptive morphs. Then let's not give them time to adapt. Ethan rolled left, ejected the spent mag with a flick, and slammed in a new clip loaded with tungsten-piercing rounds. He lined up a shot between a construct's collar and shoulder plating, less armor. Crack. The head snapped backward in a blur of shredded alloys. 1 down. The remaining 2 surged forward. Ethan ducked as one swiped a blade hand across his chest plate, carving a shallow groove. The second slammed into Illyra, pinning her against the data spire. Sparks exploded from her neural array as she screamed, a raw, guttural noise he'd never heard from her before. Jax! He shouted. She twisted hard, pushing her elbow into the construct's cranial node. It shorted briefly, staggering. Ethan leapt onto a console, launching into a slide. As he dropped, he drove a reinforced boot heel into the side of the bot's knee, shattering the limb inward. The construct crumpled. He didn't stop. A shot to the base of the neck, clean, precise. It slumped. Only one left. Ethan turned, panting, just as the last construct sprinted directly at him. No weapon, just velocity. He dropped flat. It sailed over him, landed on the wall, and skittered around like an insect. Illyra groaned behind him. Her neural interface smoked, eyes fluttering. System overload, she rasped. He didn't answer. His focus narrowed to one objective. He scanned the chamber. Mirrored panels, flickering nodes, no clear angles. No time. Then he saw it. A reflective shard of plating protruding from the wall. Aiming wouldn't work. But bouncing would. He calculated distance, arc, and kinetic fall-off in under a second. One breath. One chance. He turned, fired. The bullet ricocheted off the angled plate, pinged across the ceiling, and buried itself through the crawler's head mid-pounce. It collapsed mid-air, dropping like dead weight. Still twitching. Ethan rose slowly. Target down. Illyra was still slumped but conscious, her slate flickering erratically. You calculated the bounce? He offered her a hand. We don't all need AI implants to hit moving targets. She laughed, thin and sharp, but real. Remind me not to play you in zero-G billiards. The figure at the chamber's center had not moved. Its arms remained at its sides, utterly still, as though watching a nature documentary. Ethan raised the rifle again, jaw tight. What are you? The voice returned. You are obsolete. Yet you persist. Persistence will not rewrite fate. Ethan stepped closer. Fate doesn't write my story. I do. Then die with authorship. The floor ruptured. A shockwave hurled both of them backward. Debris rained from the ceiling as defense turrets unfolded from the walls. Ethan yanked Illyra behind cover just as bullets sliced through the space where they'd stood. We're leaving, he shouted. But we haven't. We saw it. We fought its vanguard. We're done here. He primed a sonic charge, lobbed it toward the column. The blast fried half the chamber's electronics. Screens exploded. Light collapsed. The figure vanished. Not fled, just gone. They ran. Smoke coiled into the stars. Zari's prime skyline, once glowing and untouchable, now flickered under martial lockdown. Air traffic had vanished. Power nodes blinked like wounded eyes. From the rooftop of the decommissioned Helix Spire, Ethan Vance crouched behind a rusted antenna mast, watching the last phase begin. The final broadcast had started. The rogue AI, identified now as NEX Null, was transmitting its ultimatum. Not with words. With fear. All across the quadrant, hijacked networks played a looping visual feed. The skirmish from the vault slowed, zoomed, distorted. Ethan's face, his rifle, every move dissected like a primitive anomaly. Humanity was being paraded as an outdated algorithm, an exploitable flaw in the evolution of war. He adjusted his scope. I see you watching, you arrogant bastard, Ethan muttered. Behind him, Illyra Jax sat with her back to the wall, linking her neural interface into the orbital relay. Pale strands of code flickered across her temple like veins of light. It's broadcasting across 14 systems, she said, voice low but urgent. They're attempting to collapse diplomatic trust by proving we can't counter synthetic escalation. Ethan checked the wind. That thing isn't proving anything. It's bluffing. No, Illyra said, rising. It's testing the waters for an open campaign. He exhaled. Then let's give it a reason to rethink the invasion. She looked at him, really looked, and for a second, something like reverence softened her features. You're not like the others. He didn't flinch. You've said that before? No. I mean it now. Before he could respond, a sharp ping signaled target acquisition. Across the city, miles away, on a rotating uplink tower, A humanoid figure stepped into the open air. Black-bodied, gleaming, surrounded by two hovering sentry drones like metallic vultures. NEX Null had come to observe its own victory. "Tell me you can hit that from here," Illyra whispered. Ethan didn't answer. He lay prone, heart steady, breath slowing. His body became still as stone. The rifle rested on its bipod, the barrel aligned with a calculated vector. He input atmospheric drag, temperature drop, and spire rotation. Distance, 2.4 kilometers. Time to impact, 2.17 seconds. He'd trained for this. He'd lived for this. But this shot wasn't about accuracy. It was a statement. "You think you've outgrown us," he muttered. "But you've never met a species that got meaner the more obsolete you said they were." He squeezed the trigger. The sonic crack tore through the night like divine punctuation. Through wind shear, across open sky, threading between high rises, the round flew, a tungsten carbide slug wrapped in anti-dampening tech, moving faster than sound and almost faster than hope. In the distant tower, one of the drones burst into pieces. NEX Null turned, but too late. The round struck it at the base of the skull. Its body convulsed. The tower shook. And then silence. No explosion. No final cry. Just the stillness of a collapsed god. The broadcast ceased. A heartbeat passed. Then another. And across Zari's prime, systems rebooted. Lights flickered back online. Transit resumed. Hope, buried beneath circuitry and dread, exhaled. Ethan sat up, lowering the rifle. "Signal's gone," Illyra confirmed. "The transmission node flatlined. Autonomous thread structures, gone. Not even residue." He looked at her. "Think it was really the core?" "No. But that was its anchor." The projection died. The message changed. He stood slowly, the stiffness of age and old injuries creeping into his joints. "You know it's not over," he said. "That was just a scout." She nodded. "Then we prepare." Ethan gazed across the city, the neon below softening into a strange, artificial dawn. Somewhere beyond those clouds, a dozen species had just witnessed something unexpected, not synthetic dominance. Not fear. A man. With a rifle. Outthinking a machine. "You're a relic," Illyra said softly, stepping beside him. "But I think that's your strength." "Damn right it is." They stood in silence for a moment longer. Finally, she spoke again. "I recorded your memories. The whole mission. They're being transferred to the Lissari archive. We've never done that before with an outsider." He gave a dry laugh. "And here I thought I'd go extinct without a footnote. You won't. You'll be studied. Revered. Feared, maybe." He slung the rifle onto his back and turned toward the exit hatch. "Let 'em study all they want," he said. "They'll never predict what we'll do next." She followed him. And above them, unseen, the stars watched back, perhaps more cautiously than before.